something happening with this as well now, right? We need the new system.
No. Inshallah, new system is coming.
Inshallah. Yeah? Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Is it the wire? بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه أما بعد. Yesterday in Salatul Taraweeh we recited the which juz number?
Number 13, Yusuf.
Number 13. Okay, so we haven't covered 12. How come we haven't covered 12? We've missed out one.
We finished Yunus and we never started Yusuf. We started Yusuf.
No.
Yesterday we finished Yunus.
In the halaqa. I thought you were talking about Taraweeh. I'm like, okay, yeah, we finished Surah Yunus. Okay, very quickly, Surah Hud is also a Meccan surah. It is named after the prophet of Ad, Hud alayhi salam. Same themes as the previous surah. It relates to us the stories of Anbiya alayhi salam, the story of Nuh alayhi salam in some detail. Nuh has been mentioned previously. The story of Nuh is mentioned in Suratul A'raf. Yeah. No, in the surahs that we've covered so far. So in Suratul A'raf it was mentioned. But here there's a special mention of Nuh alayhi salam. It is mentioned in Yunus as well. But here Allah Azza wa Jal speaks about how Nuh alayhi salam was sent to his people. He invited them. They did not accept. Then Allah commanded Nuh to build the ark. And every time they would walk by, they would make fun of him and say, well, where are you hoping to sail? And so the response of Nuh alayhi salam was, قال إن تسخروا منا فإنا نسخر منكم كما تسخرون فسوف تعلمون. That if you make fun of us today, then there will come a day when we will make fun of you. As a figure of speech. Not that the Nabi alayhi salam ever wants for his people to be punished. But that is the law that Allah Azza wa Jal has, the system, what goes around, comes around. And so Allah Azza wa Jal says in Surah Al-Mutaffifin, إن الذين أجرموا كانوا من الذين آمنوا يضحكون. The criminals make fun of the believers. When they pass by them, they wink at each other. When they go back to their families, they say these people are astray and misled. But Allah Azza wa Jal says on the day of Qiyamah, the believers will be making fun of. And thus as a retribution. Not that the believers will hold any ill feeling because hearts are cleansed. Right? But on that day, Allah Azza wa Jal says that it will be for the turn of the believers to laugh. Anyway, so Nuh alayhi salam builds the ark, the punishment begins. A special mention of the son of Nuh alayhi salam is mentioned, is made here in Surah Hud. That is not mentioned anywhere else. Nuh is mentioned so many times in the Qur'an because he is one of the 5 ulul azm min ar-rusul. And Allah is strengthening the resolve of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Imagine this is the time of Mecca. People generally are not accepting the message of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. A very small number of people have accepted. And a lot of persecution of Sahaba and of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself. So, yes. So when the punishment begins, Nuh alayhi salam sees his son, who is a disbeliever. I've come across something that says that Nuh alayhi salam had 2 wives. Allahu alam. One was a believer and one was a disbeliever. Allah knows best. And that at least one of his sons was a Because Allah says, وَجَعَلْنَا ذُرِّيَّتَهُ هُمُ الْبَاقِينَ. The progeny of Nuh alayhi salam remained. And so it must have been that he had another wife. I don't know if that happened after his first wife was destroyed in the punishment, and maybe he remarried, wallahu alam. Anyway, his son, one of his sons from his progeny of Nuh alayhi salam, was a disbeliever. So he said to him, قَالَ يَا بُنَيَّ ارْكَبْ مَعَنَا. Oh my son, you know, Allah shows that Anbiya alayhi salam do not lose hope. The punishment has started, but he's saying, قَالَ يَا بُنَيَّ ارْكَبْ مَعَنَا وَلَا تَكُنْ مَعَ الْكَافِرِينَ. Join us and do not be with the disbelievers. That last moment, the punishments began. قَالَ سَآوِي إِلَى جَبَلٍ يَعْصِمُنِي مِنَ الْمَاءِ. Nuh alayhi salam knows that there is no getting away from the punishment of Allah. But the son doesn't. The son is going in accordance to what the laws of the world of life. He said, I'm going to get to that mountain, I should be safe. قال لا عاصم اليوم من أمر الله إلا من رحم. Today it is not about seeking a height, or none will be protected from the command of Allah except those on whom He has mercy. وحال بينهما الموج فكان من المغرقين. And a wave came between them, and he was what? He was destroyed, drowned. After the punishment comes to an end, the water, Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَقِيلَ يَا أَرْضُ بْلَعِي مَاءَكِ. Allah commanded the earth to swallow its water. وَيَا سَمَاءُ أَقْلِعِي. And He commanded the sky to stop raining. Nuh alayhi salam called out to Allah. وَنَادَى نُوحٌ رَبَّهُ. Look, even the Nabi, we try to understand the wisdom of Allah Azza wa Jalla. Sometimes the Nabi alayhi salam does not understand, because the knowledge of Allah is beyond even the Nabi. So وَنَادَى نُوحٌ رَبَّهُ. Nuh alayhi salam called out to Allah. ونادى نوح ربه فقال إن ابني من أهلي. My son is part of my family, and Allah had promised him that I am going to save you, your family, and the believers. وَإِنَّ وَعْدَكَ الْحَقِّ. Not that Nuh alayhi salam is asking for his son to be saved without belief. No, he was hoping that he would believe. And so he's not questioning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in that Allah has broken His promise, but he's wanting to understand, how was the promise fulfilled when my son has died in the punishment? That is his blood. إِنَّ ابْنِي مِنْ أَهْلِي وَإِنَّ وَعْدَكَ الْحَقِّ. And your promise is the truthful one. وَأَنْتَ أَحْكَمُ الْحَاكِمِينَ. And you are the most just. قال يا نوح إنه ليس من أهلك. يا نوح, he is not considered as a member of your family. In the sight of Allah Azza wa Jal, there is no relationship between a believer and a disbeliever. Allah says, in this world amongst yourselves, yes, you have blood relation, you have through marriage, through this, through that, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَإِذَا نُفِخَ فِي الصُّورِ. On the day of Qiyamah, فَلَا أَنْسَابَ بَيْنَهُمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ. There is no relation. Every individual, Allah deals with every individual on his own or her own. You know, your father is a Nabi, will not help you. Yes, we. Likewise, Ibrahim alayhi salam was mentioned in Surah Yunus, where Allah says that he was commanded not to pray for his father, because now he has died as a disbeliever. For as long as he lived, Ibrahim alayhi salam said, I will astaghfiru laka rabbi, I will seek forgiveness for you. I will seek that Allah forgives you and grants you guidance. But فَلَمَّا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ أَنَّهُ عَدُوٌّ لِلَّهِ. When it became clear that he is an enemy to Allah, meaning to the deen of Allah, تَبَرَّأَ مِنْهُ. Tabarru is to wash your hands of somebody. This is an extremely difficult thing that perhaps we don't have to ever deal with. But Sahaba radiallahu anhum ajma'in, and those who revert to Islam, they have to deal with this. Parents, siblings, close family, extended family. And knowing in your heart that this relationship, if Allah guides them, but if this relationship is only for this world, because Allah said, وَصَاحِبُ مَا فِي الدُّنْيَا مَعْرُوفًا, your parents are disbelievers, treat them kindly, with kindness. But it comes, it ends with this world. إِنَّهُ عَمَلٌ غَيْرُ صَالِحٌ. Allah said, his deeds and his choices were not good ones. فَلَا تَسْأَلْنِ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٌ. Do not question me about what you have no knowledge of. إِنِّي أَعِظُكَ, I admonish you, أَن تَكُونَ مِنَ الْجَاهِلِينَ. And so Nuh alayhi salam immediately submits and says, قَالَ رَبِّ إِنِّي أَعُوذُ بِكَ أَنْ أَسْأَلَكَ مَا لَيْسَ لِي بِهِ عِلْمٌ. I seek protection from you that I would ever ask you a question such as this one, regarding which I have no knowledge. وَإِلَّا تَغْفِرْ لِي وَتَرْحَمْنِي. If you do not forgive me and have mercy on me, أَكُمْ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. Perhaps this is one of the things that Nuh alayhi salam is going to put forward, that I questioned Allah on the day of Qiyamah. When humanity is going from one to another, one Nabi to another, they go to Adam, he says, I disobeyed Allah. They go to Nuh, he says, I questioned Allah. Ibrahim alayhi salam says, I lied on 2 occasions. Musa alayhi salam, 2 occasions. No, I think it's 2. Well, maybe 3. Anyway, I lied on occasions. I do not know what Allah is going to do with me. Yeah, there were lies that are permissible in order to protect himself and his wife. And one of them was when he broke the idols, and then he said, "Oh, ask that big one. Maybe he did it." Okay.
He did lie here.
It is because they asked him, "Did you do it?" He said, "No." No. He said, "لا." قال بل فعله. No. قال بل فعله كبيرهم هذا. Yeah. I think it is this big one that has destroyed the rest. So this was not a lie to protect himself, وَالْعِيَاذُ بِاللَّهِ, but rather it was a play of words in order to make them realize the stupidity of their belief. Or else, when it came down to it, Ibrahim alayhi salam fully accepted the punishment that was decided against him, and he was put in the fire. And then the second time is with his wife, when he was traveling, and the king got hold of them, and apparently that he was impressed by her beauty, Sarah alayhi salam. And he said, yes. And the third one, when he said, "I am sick." Yes, very good, mashallah. Okay, so Musa, what does Musa alayhi salam mention?
Musa and the fighter.
Yeah, he killed somebody. Isa is the only one who does not mention anything. But even Isa alayhi salam is in a situation because Allah is going to question him about people worshipping him and his mother. So who's left? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Following the story of Nuh, there is the account of Hud alayhi salam, who invites his people to Allah, and they reject, they are punished. The people of Hud are punished with what? People of Nuh punished with flood and water. People of Hud, wind. Then the mention of Salih alayhi salam, who are destroyed with one. It is a scream with a quake. Yeah. Then Shu'aib alayhi salam, there is also mention of Ibrahim and how he received news of angels came to Ibrahim alayhi salam, and they informed him that he's going to have a child. And then he said, "Where are you going?" They said, "We are going to destroy the town of Lut alayhi salam." So Ibrahim alayhi salam, he said, "But Lut is living in it." قال إن فيها لوطا. How can you destroy it? Lut was related to Ibrahim alayhi salam. nephew, I think. قال إن فيها لوطا. Lut is living among his people. They said, do not fear. We know who's living in there, and he's going to be protected and saved from the punishment. And then finally, a mention of Musa alayhi salam very quickly, in general terms, is made. Anyway, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, after mentioning the stories of the Anbiya, or the different nations, and these stories are there, the stories of previous nations and Anbiya have two main lessons, two main purposes. One is to strengthen the resolve of Rasulullah, that previous prophets have come before you and people belied them, denied them, rejected them, ridiculed them, and so you should not lose heart. You continue. That is the command of Allah Azza wa Jal. And the stories of previous nations is for the disbelievers, for Quraysh. Allah is saying, do you not know? And these were Arab nations, Hud, Salih, Shu'aib. They were Arab nations. And so these stories were known to Quraysh. Allah says, do you not know that these people have been destroyed because of their disbelief? Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, these are accounts we relate to you, O Prophet, of the destroyed cities. Some are still standing barren, while others have been mowed down. We did not wrong them, rather they wronged themselves. The gods they invoked besides Allah were of no help at all when the command of your Lord came, and only contributed to their ruin. Such is the crushing grip of your Lord. أخذ ربك, the crushing grip of your Lord when He seizes the societies entrenched in wrongdoing. Indeed, His grip is terribly painful and severe. Surely, in this is a sign for those who fear the torment of the hereafter. Allah is saying, look, how I've punished these people. And so imagine my punishment and the severity of my punishment in the hereafter. Surely in this is a sign for those who fear the torment of the hereafter. That is a day for which humanity will be gathered, and a day that will be witnessed by all. We only delay it for a fixed term. When that day arrives, no one will dare speak except with His permission, i.e. with Allah's permission. And then humanity is divided into two groups. Some of them will be miserable, others joyful. As for those bound for misery, they will be in the fire, where they will be sighing and gasping, staying there forever as long as the heavens and the earth will endure, except what your Lord wills. Surely your Lord does what He intends. Except what your Lord. So what Allah is saying is, those miserable beings who are going to end up in hellfire will be in it for eternity, for as long as the heavens and the earth. This is what? Again, a figure of speech. Because the earth and the heavens are not eternal, and they are not going to remain eternally, because Allah is going to destroy them after Judgment Day. But for the human being, hundreds of millions of years the earth has been around, so it seems like an eternity. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, the dwellers of hellfire will remain in it for eternity, but He makes an exception. He says, except what your Lord wills. Why? Because there are certain people who will enter hellfire but will not remain eternally, and those are the sinful believers, for whom Allah decided that they have to be cleansed of their sins through punishment. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made that exception. Except what your Lord wills. Surely your Lord does what He intends. And as for those destined to joy, they will be in paradise, staying there forever as long as the heavens and the earth will endure. Except what your Lord wills. Why? Because there are certain people who will not enter paradise immediately. They will first go to hellfire, following that enter paradise. a generous giving without end. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, عطاء غير مجذوذ. Paradise. So do not be in doubt, O Prophet, about what those pagans worship. They worship nothing except what their forefathers worshipped before them, and we will certainly give them their share of punishment in full without any reduction. So be I've skipped one verse. So be steadfast as you are commanded, O Prophet. So after all of those stories, be steadfast, along with those who turn in submission to Allah with you, and do not transgress. Surely He is all-seeing of what you do, meaning the believers. And do not be inclined to the wrongdoers, or you will be touched by the fire. Meaning, do not ally with the wrongdoers. Yeah? Even this is not exclusive to non-believers, but rather even believers, when they are involved in sin, then do not be in their company, lest the punishment befalls you. And Allah says, if you are touched by the fire, then you would have no protectors other than Allah, nor would you be helped. Establish prayer, O Prophet, at both ends of the day and in the early part of the night. Surely good deeds wipe out evil deeds. Salah wipes out evil deeds. They say the Shan al-Nuzul, we've mentioned this previously in other halaqat, that a Sahabi radiallahu anhu, who is a merchant, in the market, and a Sahabiya came and he was sort of impressed by her beauty, and they kind of got involved physically without committing zina. And so he came to Rasulullah and he said, Ya Rasulullah, this is what happened. I kissed a woman and I'm remorseful. So what should I do now? And so Rasulullah did not respond to him. And this verse was revealed, that establish prayer for good deeds, remove the effect of sins, and these are the minor sins. That is a reminder for the mindful. And be patient. Allah says, Rasulullah says, be patient. Certainly Allah does not discount the reward of the good doers. Because it seems that Rasulullah is putting so much effort and it's going to waste. Allah says your effort is not going to waste. You are responsible to deliver the message. You are not responsible for the guidance or the outcome. And so, an extremely difficult mission for Rasulullah. And it begins with, you have two ways, right? You have a project. It can go one of two ways. One is like it starts, with a boom, right in the beginning, and there's great success, and then the other way is that you encounter a lot of struggle and a lot of bumps on the road. And so that requires steadfastness and patience. And Anbiya alayhimus salam, they were like the model of patience and steadfastness. And Allah Azza wa Jalla, again, this sort of note is made to Rasulullah that had your Lord so willed, He would have certainly made humanity one single nation, one single community of believers. If Allah wanted, all would have become believers. But they will always choose to differ. And we relate to you, O Prophet, the stories of the messengers to reassure your heart in black and white. And there has come to you in this chapter the truth, a warning to the disbelievers and a reminder to the believers. Say to those who disbelieve, persist in your ways, we will certainly persist in ours, and wait, surely we too are waiting for the judgment of God. To Allah alone belongs the knowledge of what is hidden in the heavens and the earth, and to Him all matters are returned. So worship Him and put your trust in Him, and your Lord is never unaware of what you do. This brings us to what? The end of Surah Hud and the beginning of Surah Yusuf. So we have Yusuf, Ra'd, and Ibrahim. Ya Allah. How are we going to do that? We finished Ibrahim yesterday. Surah to Yusuf. Amazing surah. Allah named it what? Ahsan al-Qasas. Yes, it is the only story that begins, starts from the very beginning and goes all the way to the end. And Allah Azza wa Jal in it does not, in the Qur'an, He does not mention Yusuf or the story of Yusuf anywhere else. He mentions him by name, Yusufa. But his story is not mentioned elsewhere. This is exclusive because all the other Anbiya are mentioned, their stories are mentioned in different parts. And we said why. Every time Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions Nuh, it's a different spin on the story of Nuh alayhi salam. Every time Musa, some different details. And you know the wisdom for that, right? The wisdom for it is that the Qur'an did not come as a book of information or stories. It came to guide, but it came to strengthen belief. And so there is no need to delve into the details of how Nuh got married and how many children he had, and it serves no purpose for the believer. It's just information. But here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did that with Yusuf, and actually the account of Yusuf or the life of Yusuf alayhi salam or the story of Yusuf has so many different lessons and stages that Allah Azza wa Jalla wants to make us aware of. Again, this is also revealed to Rasulullah when he was in Mecca. And in this thing, this is the clear Qur'an translation, which is a good translation, I recommend. In the preface, or if you like, the introduction of the surah, it says that obviously this is a Meccan surah. It was revealed to Rasulullah in a very difficult time. Khadija and Abu Talib had just died. They had just come out from a boycott of what? 3 years. Where he was forced away from his hometown and separated from people. And so Allah brought the story of Yusuf alayhi salam, or revealed the story of Yusuf in this time. Because Yusuf alayhi salam was also driven out by his own people, his brothers, and they sought to kill him. They were the way they were wanting to kill Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then ultimately Allah mentions the triumph of Yusuf alayhi salam. And that's exactly what happened to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Eventually he comes to Mecca years later, after the revelation of this surah. He comes to Mecca as a conqueror, right? And he gathers the people of Quraysh and he says to them, what do you think I will do with you today? He was driven out, persecuted, insulted, driven out of Mecca. And then when he went to Medina, they didn't let him live in peace. The first Badr, then the second Uhud, then the third, the Battle of the Trenches, and then breaking the treaty and the promise they made with Rasulullah. Eventually now he has, so he says to the Quraysh, who are mushrikeen at the time, so what do you think I will do with you today? They said, you are an honorable brother, the son of an honorable brother, meaning Abdullah. So Rasulullah quoted the verses from Surah to Yusuf. قَالَ لَا تَثْرِيبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الْيَوْمِ. Since you hope for mercy and forgiveness, then I have forgiven you. The way Yusuf, and he said, the way Yusuf forgave his brothers.
In fact, his father said, I will forgive you.
You're spoiling, brother. Let us get to it.
Muhammad was elderly, yet he forgave him straight away.
Yes.
Meaning he was young in the heart.
But let's just come there and then you tell us. Alif Lam Ra. These are the verses of the clear book. Indeed, we have sent it down as an Arabic Qur'an, so that you may understand. What is the first lesson? Learn Arabic. If you want to, look, learning Arabic is not compulsory. Okay, it's not compulsory. And what I don't like about people who return to Deen or start practicing or revert to Islam, and they're so focused on Arabic, and it's like Arabic is the only language to communicate with God, with Allah Azza wa Jal. That is not the case. Arabic is a language like any other language, but it was selected because it's for the Qur'an. Right? And so if you have this thing in your mind that I can only become religious and really start acting on my deen when I learn Arabic and when I read Qur'an and when I... That is not the case. Yeah? Looking at you for what? And so, but if you wanna taste the beauty of Qur'an or enjoy the beauty of Qur'an, then learning Arabic is, yeah. And then at different levels, like the way, let's say for example, the brother, the beauty he sees in the Qur'an, the beauty he sees in the Qur'an, the beauty I see in the Qur'an, the beauty and a well-versed scholar sees in the Qur'an, the beauty a mufassir sees in the Qur'an. It speaks to each level, but you need to know the language. If not, then you rely on translation and the gist. You get the gist, but you miss out on the what? The enjoyment, of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks to mankind. So yeah, learning Arabic is definitely praiseworthy, and if you don't learn it in this world, you will definitely speak it in Akhirah, inshallah. Then you will read the Qur'an, and no, it's not too late. Why is it too late? You can still in Jannah read the Qur'an. Why not? Listen to the Qur'an from Allah Azza wa Jal, and then you will know Arabic, and then you will realize the beauty, and then you say, I wish I had learnt it when I was in North Finchley. But yeah, but I tell you, it's praiseworthy. It is of importance, but it is not that important. Don't base your deen on Arabic, and so you're holding off everything until I learn Arabic, and all your focus and concentration, which yeah, it is absolutely a trick of shaitan, because you have no guarantee, to master Arabic to a level where you can read Qur'an and understand it 100%. You need like 7-8 years, and that's full on a daily basis, committed. Who's got that time, right?
The level, I think it's important to learn Arabic. When you recite, as the Imam, and I'm studying behind you, at least my concentration goes out from, when he's saying, because he was reciting Surah Yusuf last night. So if you know the Arabic, so then all the focus is on the story. So yeah,
but how much we're talking about, we said it's a praiseworthy thing, and it is something that every Muslim should seek to do if they do not know Arabic. However, where would you put it is it number 1, number 2, number 3?
Number 2.
No, it has no number. It only embellishes your relationship with Allah and your deen. It doesn't have a number.
I put in a position to enjoy my prayer or enjoy the
No, if it was, then it would have been one of the pillars of Islam, or one of the pillars of Iman. But it is not. Yeah? And the truth is, and Arabs will testify to this, just because you understand what the Imam is saying, it doesn't mean that you are concentrating in prayer. It helps, certainly. But it has nothing to do, it's awareness of Allah that makes you concentrate in prayer. That helps. The story, I understand what the Imam is saying, it will help. But even then, my mind, I stand behind the Imam and my mind goes away and I'm roaming everywhere. And there are people who do not understand a single word of Okay, not a single word. Maybe they know Fatiha and small surahs. They don't know what the Imam is reciting, but they have full khushu' in salah. Why? Because of their awareness of Allah. Because when you are stood there, the main thing that you are supposed to think about, yes, you think about the meanings of the surah and the verses, but the main thing you're thinking about is, I am stood before Allah, my Creator, who has commanded me to stand, bow and prostrate as an act of worship and showing my insignificance and His greatness. Allahu Akbar. Yeah.
The understanding also helps you to concentrate, because when you understand what is recited, even your heart will, your peace will start.
Yeah, but then you concentrate on what is being said, but that doesn't mean that you are focused on Allah. You understand? Say for example, you're reading Surah Yusuf, amazing story, you're focused on it, you know what is being said, but that doesn't mean that you're focused on Allah Azza wa Jal. You're focused on the story. It is a tool to help you. But what helps in concentration in salah is dhikr outside of salah. The more dhikr and awareness that Allah is watching me, Allah is hearing me, Allah is with me, Allah is aware of me, you have outside of salah, the more you will focus in prayer. Definitely. But yeah, absolutely. When you understand, then your mind is engaged with the surah, so it won't go, left, right.
But you call it better language than other languages.
Oh yeah.
Better
Arabic language is the best language.
This is Allah knows it because it's the best.
And if a non-Arab claims otherwise, it's because they don't know Arabic. So if you don't taste something, you can't know. If I tell you, my cooking is better than your cooking, but I've never tasted yours. Yeah. No, it is the best. Yes, but it is the reason Arabic is amazing. It's that it is so rich with meanings that it does a better job communicating. This is why Allah selected it to communicate. Because think about it, Allah does not have a language. Does He?
No.
Is it,
Only language, no.
is it the first language Adam spoke?
Possibly. They say possibly. But Allah doesn't. Does Allah have a language? Allah does not have a language. He's the creator of languages. Okay. And Arabic is what? Ba, you put your lips together. Ba. Ta, you have to put your teeth together. Does Allah Azza wa Jal have?
These things? No.
These are created. But Allah Azza wa Jal is communicating His speech via Arabic language. Why? Because it is the most eloquent language, human language. So Allah uses it for the revelation of the Qur'an. Anyway.
The previous prophets also they use this language like.
Yeah. Ibrahim alayhi salam. And some say no. Sorry. Ismail alayhi salam. Ismail alayhi salam is the one who he learned Arabic from the tribe that had come to Mecca. They were Arabs, and so he learned Arabic from them, and then after Ismail, before Salih, they say even maybe Shu'aib, Salih, Hud, they were Arab tribes, Arab nations. But then after that is Bani Israel, Ishaq, Yaqub, all of these are Bani Israel. So Arabic took 10 minutes of our time. We have sent it down as an Arabic Qur'an so that you may understand. This is what the address is to. Rasulullah is in Mecca, in Quraysh, so it is to Arabs first and then the rest. We relate to you, O Prophet, the best of stories. Allah calls it the best of stories. Why is it the best of stories?
Because it's
We can
start from
Jew,
there.
Christian and Muslim can come together on this story.
Okay. Full narrative. So it is the best narrated story in the Quran. Okay. But what else?
It's the complete story.
Complete.
Full life journey of Yusuf alayhi salam.
What do you require for something? Let's say, for example, you're watching a movie, a film. What do you require for it to be a very good one?
Good end. Good end.
Huh?
Introduction and the conclusion.
Introduction and conclusion. There has to be, number one, there has to be a happy ending. Yeah? If you don't have a happy ending, then you go to bed sad. So you need the happy ending to uplift the mood. Okay. Then what else?
Good lesson.
What lesson in a film? I'm talking about film, not this.
Oh,
Ah.
lesson.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about story. You're reading a book story.
The hero must be a top hero, like who is
Top hero. Okay, that's a good one. Top hero. Huh? Emotions and feelings. Interesting. Where does the interest come from? Huh? The excitement and when you're watching a film, where does the interest and the excitement? We said happy ending, there has to be a good ending. But in between,
Suspense. Good and evil.
conflict between good and evil. No, the twists
The suspense. Yeah.
and the constant changes. Yeah? Or else it becomes, you know what's going to come out on the other side. But like, if you like thrillers or what have you, they have these, twists. And just when you think you got it, you haven't got it. And so it makes it more interesting.
Starts from a dream, and the dream comes true at the end.
Yeah. Yes. It begins with a dream and the dream comes reality at the end. Achieved. Yeah. So it is Ahsanul Qasas. For a number of reasons, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions it, the best of stories. It begins with, obviously we can't read through it, but it begins with what? Yusuf alayhi salam, as a child, telling his father that he saw a dream. What was the dream? He saw 11 stars, the sun and the moon, prostrating to him. Yaqub alayhi salam is a prophet of Allah. What does he advise his son? He says what? قال يا بني لا تقصص رؤياك. Immediately, Yaqub alayhi salam, because he's a messenger, and he can see, a prophet can see, if he has if he has children, he can see the symbols of righteousness and prophethood in a person. A woman of Quraysh saw it in Abdullah. You've heard of this? That a woman presented herself to Abdullah, the father of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But he turned her down. And so then he married Amina. And then after some time he came and he asked for her hand in marriage. And she turned him down. She said, no, I'm no longer interested in you. So they said, what? You first proposed to him that he marry you when he turned you down, and then he came later and now you are refusing. She said, because I saw in him a light that has now been transferred to Amina. Because it went from Rasulullah from Abdullah to Amina when they got married. Anyway, Yaqub alayhi salam knows, he says he has an idea, because the interpretation of dream is based on knowledge from revelation. Yeah? And so he knows that the 11 stars represent what?
Other children.
The brothers of Yusuf. This is why he says to him, قال يا بني لا تقصص رؤياك على إخوتك. It didn't come to Yusuf's mind because he's a child. Right? But Yaqub realized, and he did not want for his brothers to know, because his brothers were older than him. They may figure it out. قال يا بني لا تقصص رؤياك على إخوتك فيكيدوا لك كيدا. They will plan against you. إن الشيطان للإنسان عدو مبين. Shaitan is an open enemy to him. Look at the education of Yaqub alayhi salam to Yusuf.
This is the thing he didn't tell them.
If he told them, Allah, he didn't tell them, and look what he had to go through. Yeah. Subhanallah. إن الشيطان للإنسان عدو مبين. And then he says to him, وكذلك يجتبيك ربك. Allah is going to select you وَيُعَلِّمُكَ مِن تَأْوِيلِ الْأَحَادِيثِ, and he will teach you knowledge of interpretation of dreams. And he will fulfill his blessing on you the way he has on your fathers Ibrahim and Ishaq, meaning that he will make you a prophet like your forefathers Ibrahim and Ishaq. تم نعمته عليك وعلى آل يعقوب كما أتم على أبويك من قبل إبراهيم وإسحاق. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in between he says لقد كان في يوسف وإخوته, indeed in the story of Joseph and his brothers there are lessons for all who ask. The brothers come to the father, actually the brothers amongst themselves, they say what? No, amongst themselves. Yusuf is more beloved to our father than we are. إن أبانا لفي ضلال مبين. Our father is misled. What does he see in Yusuf? And it is not the beauty of Yusuf that attracted Yaqub alayhi salam, but the fact that he could see in him the signs of prophethood. So that sort of righteousness. We are strong, and we are, look how many of us, 11, and he loves him more than he loves us. And so this shows the importance of what? Justice. Not to say that Yaqub alayhi salam was unjust, but they could see that his heart was inclined more to Yusuf alayhi salam. But if you are not just between your children, what is the outcome? Animosity between them, hatred between them. They will hate you and they will hate their siblings. Never make your children compete for your love and your attention.
He was just for them.
Yes, of course he was just. He's a messenger.
Like, yeah, I know. But
Yeah.
it's a simple question.
Yeah. I already said he was just.
Yeah.
He was just, but they could see, like there is certain things you can't help, in how you look when you, let's say for example, when Yusuf alayhi salam would enter the room, how Yaqub alayhi salam would react. These certain things, they are outside of your control, and other people can see it. And actually there is no, like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would say that he loved Aisha more than anybody else. There's no harm in that. Loving one child more than the other is not a problem. Actually, it's the nature of things. You're not going to love all of them equally. It's not possible, or maybe difficult. But you have to be just in your treatment. You have to be just in our treatment. Okay. So what is the first thing? The first plan is uqtulu Yusuf. Let us kill Yusuf. Get rid of him. أو اطرحوه أرضا, or take him to a far removed area and leave him there. يخلو لكم وجه. So we are going to commit a sin, but then our father's attention will be directed only to us. And then قوما صالحين, and after that we'll become righteous, which is what shaitan says to everybody, right? Do a little bit of riba now, and then when you get wealthy, inshallah, get rid of the riba, and then you'll be, mashallah, very righteous.
He was 10 or down?
Less than 10, yeah, less than 10, around that, between 7 and 10. قال قائل منهم لا تقتلوا يوسف. One of them said, do not kill him. This one had a bit of compassion and sense. And they say he is the eldest of Yaqub's children. And when later on we'll come to it. Anyway, Allah mentions him and he says, قال قائل منهم لا تقتلوا يوسف. Do not kill him. Meaning that evil has different levels. It is not the same. Although to Yaqub alayhi salam, well, Yusuf was taken away, but there's a difference between killing him, taking him to a faraway land, or putting him in a well as they planned. وَأَلْقُوهُ. So he comes up with this. He says, وَأَلْقُوهُ فِي غَيَابَةِ الْجُبِّ. You put him in a well and then somebody else will take him and the story will end. So they come to their father and they say, what? This is one way that they realized that Yusuf was more beloved to Yaqub than themselves, is that Yaqub would not let him go out with them. So this is one thing. Say, Ya ma laka la ta'manna ala Yusuf. Why do you not trust us with Yusuf? Let us take him out. He says, no, he's young. I don't want you to take him. And he says what? قال إني ليحزنني أن تذهبوا به. It hurts me that I don't want to be separated from him. I want him in my presence all the time. And then on top of that, I fear that you guys are old, and so you'll go running and hunting and playing and what have you, and you leave him and the wolf may attack. قالوا لئن أكله الذئب ونحن عصبة. They said, well, if the wolf eats him and we are this 11 brothers, mashallah, all strong, inna idhan lakhasirun, we complete losers. Meaning that's not going to happen. Okay, we understand that you don't want to separate from him, but he'll have fun. So they took him. They convinced Yaqub alayhi salam. They took Yusuf alayhi salam, and then they placed him in the. Imagine the feeling of that child. And Rasulullah went through something similar, which is what? The loss of Amina, his mother, at the tender age of 6, left in a world without father, without mother. So they take him, they place him in the well. But Allah Azza wa Jal does what? He inspires him. لَتُنَبِّئَنَّهُمْ بِأَمْرِهِمْ. In that moment, Allah tells him, don't fear. You're going to remind them of this moment. وَهُمْ لَا يَشْعُرُونَ. They don't realize it. They come to their father in the night, in the evening, يَبْكُونَ, crying. Is there anything to say about? Yeah. So they come in the night. Some have said they came at night so that Yaqub alayhi salam could not see that they are lying. Because so they come in the darkness. They waited for darkness and then they came. And they came crying, يبكون, pretending. قالوا يا أبانا إنا ذهبنا. They used the very excuse that Yaqub alayhi salam mentioned, and that sometimes the sinner is not endowed with wisdom, intelligence. They said, we went to race and we left Yusuf with our stuff because obviously he's young and he can't race, doesn't have that same pace. فأكله الذئب. The wolf ate him. And we know you're not going to believe us, but we are truthful. Like you're not going to believe that the very thing you fear, that's what's happened. And then Allah says, وَجَاءُوا عَلَى قَمِيصِهِ بِدَمٍ كَذِبٍ. They brought his shirt with false blood. When he looked at it, he said, قَالَ بَلْ سَوَّلَتْ لَكُمْ أَنفُسُكُمْ أَمْرًا. You have planned something. وَاللَّهُ الْمُسْتَعَانُ عَلَى مَا تَصِفُونَ. And I seek the assistance of Allah against what you have planned. How did Yaqub know? The shirt was intact, just with blood on it. Like the stupidity. And this is it. Allah Azza wa Jal gives you away. When you sin, Allah Azza wa Jal, especially when you take people's rights, Allah gives you away. Look, sometimes you get a murder case like 40 years ago and some small detailed evidence and they found the person and he's now 70 years old and they're locking him up. Ajib. Anyway, فصبر جميل, patience. Yaqub alayhi salam, wallahu al-musta'anu ala, beautiful patience. So then some travelers come by and they put a bucket into the well. Yusuf alayhi salam gets hold of it. And they say that Jibreel alayhi salam was there in the well and protected Yusuf alayhi salam from drowning. Yeah. He received him on his wing. Anyway, so Yusuf alayhi salam climbs on this with this rope, and they say, oh, look at this, a beautiful child. And so they sell him. Darahima ma'duda. They sold him for a low price, Allah Azza wa Jal says. Although Yusuf alayhi salam was going to become of him. And so this is his value. His value is a few darahim ma'duda, few dirhams. But look what he's going to become later. The one who bought him, قال الذي اشتراه من مصر لامرأته, him and his wife did not have children, so he said, look after him. عسى أن ينفعنا, he will be useful to us later on when he becomes stronger and will get older, because that is one of the benefits of having children, is that when you look after them when you're young and they are in need and dependent, and then when you become old and dependent, then they look after you. So عسى أن ينفعنا أو نتخذه, maybe we'll adopt him as a son.
ليش في قرب من قصة موسى؟ هذا من اليم وهذا من البئر.
الله أعلم. Well, they are from one and the same. Huh? They are Bani Israel. Yeah.
هذا ما عنده أطفال، فرعون ما عنده أطفال وهذا ما عنده أطفال.
عجيب. Yeah. The brother said, look at the similarity between the story of Musa and Yusuf. Musa gets picked out from the river, and Yusuf gets picked out from a well, both of it with water. And then Musa ends up with Fir'aun, who doesn't have children, and Yusuf ends up with the Aziz of Misr, who doesn't have children. The Aziz of Misr he was a minister. Okay, so when لما بلغ أشده, when Yusuf alayhi salam becomes an adult, the first test is what? His first trial or test is being placed in the well and separated from his father and family. The second is the seduction of the wife of Al-Aziz. وراودته التي هو في بيتها. She seduced him. وقالت هيت لك. قال معاذ الله. He outright refused. إنه ربي أحسن مثواي. Some say that this relates to the husband, that your husband has been good to me. One is that zina is a sin, but then zina with you is even a greater sin, because that is a complete act of disloyalty. Rasulullah said that one of the greatest sins is for a man to do what? To commit zina with the wife of his neighbor. Why? Because you are in a position of trust. Your neighbor is supposed to rely on you when he travels, something happens, he relies on you to look after his family, and you have the very closest people to him has taken advantage or broken that trust. Okay. So he refuses, and then he does what? Allah says, وَغَلَّقَتِ الْأَبْوَابِ. She closed doors, she locked doors. Yusuf alayhi salam bolts away from her. He didn't say to himself, no, I am Yusuf and I am the son of Yaqub and my iman is very strong. That's it. He turned down and he ran. Put a distance between yourself and sin. And your responsibility is to do what? To take the steps, and Allah Azza wa Jalla will open up doors. So as he was coming to the doors, they were opening. And then they meet her husband. Immediately she changes. She's quick at doing what? Putting the blame on Yusuf. She says, look what he intended. He should be punished. So Yusuf alayhi salam says, قال هي راودتني عن نفسي. She seduced me. Now, having lived with Yusuf and probably never experienced a lie from him, and knowing his own wife, and probably has experienced, like everybody, lies, he's thinking to himself, oh, who am I to believe? If I believe Yusuf, I put my wife down, and this is now it's going to be exposed, and I am in a position of authority, and so on and so forth. So a judgment is made. إن كان قميصه قد. If his shirt is ripped from the front, because there are signs of a physical struggle. So if it is torn from the front, then she's speaking the truth and he's lying, meaning that he is the one who forced himself on her, and she fought to protect herself. And if it is torn from the back, it means that he was trying to get away and she was. فَلَمَّا رَأَى قَمِيصَهُ قُدَّ مِن دُبُرٍ. The Aziz saw the shirt of Yusuf alayhi salam torn from the back. قَالَ إِنَّهُ مِن كَيْدٍ. He turned to his wife and he said, this is the plotting of women. إِنَّ كَيْدَكُنَّ عَظِيمٌ. And so he says, Yusuf أعرض عن هذا. He pleads with Yusuf that, please, أعرض is like disregard it. Disregard it. أعرض عن هذا. But ulama say that, look, if you put yourself in private space with an unmahram woman, what is to happen? Allahu alam. Many things can happen. Either you fall into sin. Maybe you don't fall into sin. Somebody sees you, they have wrong intention. Maybe nobody sees you, whatever. The person you were with can make all sorts of claims against you. Who knows? Has it not happened? These claims of rape and God knows what. And so why put yourself in that position? You have nothing to gain from it and a lot to lose. So don't be in a private space with a woman that is not related to you, that is not your mahram. Yeah, public, you can speak, but don't be behind closed doors that cannot be opened, to which there is no access. Rasulullah says,
in his house, this is before.
yeah, I know. Like we said about justice between the children, it doesn't apply to Yaqub. Yaqub was just with his children. Likewise, Yusuf alayhi salam, in this situation, he was raised in that house. So it's not like it was not out of the ordinary, but as a lesson for us. Yeah, she doesn't admit to her husband, but word goes around, and women of the society, of the city, they start to say, hey, have you heard that the wife of Al-Aziz has fallen in love with her adopted son? You know, إِنَّا لَنَرَاهَا فِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. You know, she's really twisted, misguided. So when she hears that her reputation is at stake, so she invites them, sits them down, she gives them fruit and knives, and she forces Yusuf alayhi salam to do what? She says, وَقَالَتِ خُرُجْ عَلَيْهِنْ. Show yourself. When they see him, أَكْبَرْنَهُ وَقَطَّعْنَ أَيْدِيهَا. They start to cut into their hands, and they don't feel the pain, out of amazement. They are so amazed by the beauty of Yusuf alayhi salam. And they say what? قُلْنَا حَاشَ لِلَّهِ مَا. This is not a human, this is an angel. قالت فذلكن الذي لمتنني فيه. She says to them, now you know, you have been blaming me and talking about me, that, oh, look at her, look at this. This is the reality of the matter. And he will do as I expect of him. And if he doesn't, then he will be imprisoned and belittled. So immediately when he hears that, immediately he says, Ya Allah, prison. Because he's in a difficult situation, he can't think of a way out. There's only two options to him. He succumbs to his desire and her desire, or because he's human at the end of the day, or he goes to prison. He says, قال رب السجن أحب إلي مما يدعونني إليه. That, Ya Allah, I think I would love to end up in prison better than what they are inviting me to. وَإِلَّا تَصْرِفْ عَنِّي كَيْدَهُنْ. And he says, as a messenger, he says that, Ya Allah, if you do not protect me from their plan, أَصْبُ إِلَيْهِنْ, I will give in to them. وَأَكُمْ مِنَ الْجَاهِلِينَ. And so somebody that thinks, mashallah, my iman is strong, Yusuf alayhi salam is a Nabi of Allah. Because what? This is the nature of man. Man has moments of strength, moments of weakness. That, Ya Allah, right now I am in a moment of strength, but what is to come in the future, I don't know. So protect me. فَاسْتَجَابَ لَهُ رَبُّهُ. Allah answered his call. فَصَرَفَ عَنْهُ كَيْدَهُنْ. And he was placed in prison, despite having the Aziz, despite seeing the sign, and knowing that Yusuf alayhi salam is not guilty, but he said, you know what, if I place him in prison, at least there's now, firstly he wants to separate his wife, Yusuf, from his wife, because he's a problem for her and she's a problem for him. So let's separate them, and then at the same time in prison people will forget about him, and then this story will go, and my reputation and my wife's reputation will not be harmed, and then we'll release him. But what happens? Yusuf is forgotten about and he remains in jail bid'a sinin, many years. We continue tomorrow, inshallah al-aziz.
جات رسالة على أي عمر؟
هو
40 عاما.
ايه جميع الانبياء 40 عام، لكن ياتيه الوحي غير وحي الهام من الله. No, he's but he could, no. There was no mention of others calling him, but maybe he puts them alongside with her because they are admiring his beauty. So.
هذا الطويل